What if one of the most terrifying horror movies ever made wasn't frightening because of what appeared on screen, but because of what happened behind the cameras? For decades, whispers have circulated through Hollywood's darkest corridors. Stories too disturbing to ignore, coincidences too numerous to dismiss. Tragedies that seemed to follow the cast and crew of a single film long after production had ended. Welcome back to Shadow Reel. In our ongoing investigation into the most cursed movies ever made, we've already stepped into a world where fiction and reality appear to blur. But today, we're opening a case file that many believe stands above all others. A film whose legacy isn't defined solely by its groundbreaking visual effects, its terrifying supernatural encounters, or its place in horror history. Instead, it's remembered for a question that refuses to die. Was Poltergeist cursed? At first glance, the idea sounds absurd. Every successful movie accumulates myths. Every major production encounters accidents, setbacks, and rumors. Hollywood has always thrived on legends. But the deeper you dig into the history of Poltergeist, the stranger the story becomes. A series of unexplained deaths, mysterious accidents, reports of supernatural experiences on set, actors who claimed something felt wrong, crew members who later admitted there were moments they couldn't explain. And at the center of it all lies one of the most controversial decisions ever made during the production of a major studio film. A choice so unsettling that even today it continues to fuel theories, investigations, and endless debates among horror fans. The more you examine the evidence, the more difficult it becomes to separate fact from folklore. Was this simply a tragic sequence of coincidences magnified by decades of media attention? Did Hollywood accidentally create its own urban legend? Or did something happen during the making of Poltergeist that no one has ever fully understood? In this investigation, we're going beyond the headlines and the recycled stories you've heard 1,000 times before. We'll examine production records, testimonies, disturbing incidents, and the chain of events that transformed a blockbuster horror film into one of cinema's most infamous cursed legends. Because before we can understand why Poltergeist became synonymous with supernatural terror, we need to start where every forbidden story begins, with the decision that changed everything. But before we open that file, if you enjoy deep investigations into cursed movies, forbidden Hollywood stories, unexplained mysteries, and the dark secrets hidden behind some of cinema's most iconic productions, take a moment to support the channel. Give this video a like. It may seem like a small action, but it helps these investigations reach more people who are fascinated by the strange, the unexplained, and the stories lurking beneath the surface of popular culture. And I want to hear your thoughts before we begin. Do you believe movie curses can actually exist, or are they simply a collection of coincidences that our minds connect into a larger story? Leave your answer in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious to see where you stand before we examine the evidence. And if you're new to Shadow Reel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. This channel is dedicated to uncovering the hidden histories, disturbing truths, forgotten mysteries, and unsettling legends that most people never discover. Because some stories are stranger than fiction, and the deeper we investigate, the darker they become. Now, let's return to the question that has haunted Hollywood for more than 4 decades. To understand how Poltergeist became one of the most infamous cursed movie legends ever discussed, we have to go back to the beginning. Not to the tragedies, not to the rumors, not even to the deaths that would later dominate headlines. We need to start with a decision made during production, a decision that, at the time, seemed practical, harmless, and completely invisible to the audience. When Poltergeist entered production in the early 1980s, it was shaping up to be something special. The film combined suburban family life with supernatural horror in a way audiences had never quite seen before. It wasn't just another haunted house story. It felt disturbingly familiar. The setting was ordinary. The family was relatable. The terror felt like it could invade anyone's home. And perhaps that's one reason why the film still resonates today. It wasn't about monsters hiding in distant castles. It was about darkness appearing in the middle of everyday life. Behind the scenes, however, there was enormous pressure to create convincing effects. This was long before digital technology could solve every problem with a few clicks. Everything had to be built, designed, filmed, and executed physically. Every illusion required creativity. Every supernatural moment demanded practical solutions. And that pressure led the production team to make a choice that would eventually become one of the most discussed decisions in horror movie history. One of the film's most memorable sequences involves a pool filled with skeletons. It's a disturbing scene even today. But what audiences didn't know, and what many members of the cast reportedly didn't know at the time, was that the skeletons used during filming were not props in the traditional sense. They were real human skeletons. Take a moment to think about that. Not replicas, not rubber models, not special effects creations. Actual human remains. According to stories that later emerged, real skeletons were often cheaper than high-quality artificial versions at the time. Medical skeletons could be acquired for educational purposes, and some productions quietly used them because they looked more realistic on camera. From a purely technical standpoint, it may have seemed like an efficient solution. But once that information became public, the narrative surrounding Poltergeist changed forever. Because horror fans, paranormal investigators, and lovers of unexplained mysteries began asking a question that still lingers today. What happens when entertainment crosses a line that perhaps should never be crossed? Was it merely a production shortcut? Or was it the moment something darker attached itself to the film? The answer depends entirely on what you believe about places, objects, and human remains. Throughout history, countless cultures have treated the dead with profound respect. Ancient traditions, spiritual teachings, and folklore from around the world all share a similar warning. Disturbing the dead can carry consequences. Whether viewed through religion, spirituality, superstition, or psychology, the idea appears again and again across civilizations separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years. And that's where the poltergeist mystery becomes so fascinating. Because once the story of the skeletons entered public awareness, every strange event connected to the production began to feel different. Every accident suddenly looked suspicious. Every tragedy appeared connected. Every coincidence became potential evidence. The curse legend had found its origin point. And what happened next would transform a successful horror movie into something far more unsettling. A case file filled with incidents that many people still struggle to explain. And that is exactly where the story stops being a curious Hollywood rumor and starts becoming something far more disturbing. Because after Poltergeist was released, the tragedies began to accumulate in a way that felt impossible to ignore. The first shock came with Dominique Dunne, the young actress who played Dana Freeling. She was only 22 years old when her life was cut short in a horrifying act of violence. Her death had no direct connection to the production itself, yet for many observers it became the first dark chapter in a growing pattern. A tragedy that, in hindsight, seemed to mark the beginning of something unsettling surrounding the cast. At the time, most people dismissed any connection. And honestly, that's a reasonable reaction. Tragic events happen. Coincidences happen. Human beings are naturally inclined to search for patterns, even where none exist. But then another tragedy followed. And another. And another. Years later, audiences were devastated by the death of Heather O'Rourke, the child actress who became the face of Poltergeist through her unforgettable line, they're here. For millions of viewers, Heather wasn't just another performer. She was the heart of the franchise, the symbol of innocence trapped inside a supernatural nightmare. Her sudden death at the age of 12 shocked the entertainment world, and once again, the curse narrative grew stronger. People who had never cared about paranormal stories suddenly became interested. Horror fans started connecting timelines. Journalists revisited old reports. Investigators of unexplained mysteries began digging through production stories. The deeper people looked, the stranger the entire picture appeared. Soon, discussions expanded beyond the deaths themselves. Stories emerged about unusual experiences during filming. Accounts of cast members feeling uncomfortable in certain locations. Rumors of strange occurrences on set. Whispers that some people involved believed the production had attracted something negative. Whether those stories were genuine experiences, exaggerated memories, or legends amplified over time almost became irrelevant. What mattered was the atmosphere they created. The feeling that Poltergeist no longer existed solely as a movie. It had become a modern myth. And that's what makes cursed movie investigations so fascinating. The facts alone are unsettling, but the stories built around those facts are what give them lasting power. Think about it for a moment. If only one tragedy had occurred, nobody would remember it as a curse. If only one strange incident had been reported, it would have faded into obscurity. But when multiple tragedies, unsettling production decisions, mysterious rumors, and decades of speculation become woven together, they form something much larger than any single event. They become folklore, a living legend passed from one generation of horror fans to the next. And perhaps that's the true secret behind Poltergeist. Maybe the curse isn't something supernatural hiding within the film. Maybe the curse is the story itself. A story so powerful that more than 40 years later, people are still investigating it, debating it, and trying to determine where reality ends and myth begins. Because that's the uncomfortable truth about the most cursed movies ever made. The deeper you investigate, the less certain you become. And sometimes the most frightening possibility isn't that the curse is real. It's that nobody can definitively prove it isn't. If you've made it this far into the investigation, I'd love to know where you stand. Comment the phrase curse or coincidence below and tell us which side of the mystery you believe. And if stories about cursed films, hidden Hollywood histories, paranormal legends, and forbidden cinema investigations fascinate you as much as they fascinate us, make sure you're subscribed to Shadow Reel. Because as disturbing as the Poltergeist case may be, what happened during The Crow may have been even darker.